Hello, wonderful beings, beautiful incarnated souls. It's been a while I've not posted, so I am now ready to do so from my office on a Sunday. So, we are going to look at chapter 6 and 7 of the Tao Te King. First, the classic translation. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want of chapter 6 and chapter 7. I hope it's not blurred. And we are going to look at Vian Den Groot's own interpretation of the same. Feel free again to take a screenshot if you need. All right, so let me start by reading the classic translation, and then I'll go through Vian Den Groot's interpretation and maybe make some comments. Chapter 6. The Vible spirit, undying, is called the mystic female. The gate of the mystic female is called the root of heaven and earth. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. Utilize it, it is never exhausted. Then chapter 7. Heaven and earth are everlasting. The reason heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves. Thus they can last forever. Therefore the sages place themselves last, but end up in front, are outside of themselves and yet survive. Is it not due to their selflessness? That is how they can achieve their own goals. So let's dive into Vian Den Groot's interpretation of chapter 6. The subject of life. The subject is no object. The egoless subject emanating from source is eternal and boundless. It is one's true identity, giving effortless freedom to all, oneness. One's eternal dance and rebirth in infinite worlds within creation. It is life's own spirit, always silent and elusive, yet endlessly available to its subject. Chapter 7. The present of life. Life is the present of now. Source and subject are eternal, and creation is long enduring. Mindless, egoless, selfless, they are always present and available. They are the present of life to life. Creatures being and being witnessed now. One who silently embraces selflessness and timelessness finds freedom in life now, in union with spirit and harmony with creation. Yin and yang, transcending duality now, ultimately merging with source, transcending subject, and even now. So what can we say about this? Frankly, I don't even feel like speaking right now, but I'll give you the honor and the respect of actually trying to provide my own point of view and guidance on these two chapters. This first one talks of the Vible spirit, which is called the mystic female, which is in fact just the notion of the empty vessel, the notion of feminine, which is passivity and receptacle, and that is seen in duality as opposition to the male principle, which is penetrating and active. Of course, this is in duality, and really what it may give the impression that this chapter may give the impression that it is recommending the feminine attribute by opposition to the male attribute, but not at all. It's really just about showing, contrary to the popular belief, that both essential characteristics of oneness are powerful. Everybody has and had at the time of writing this text a very clear understanding of the power of the male attribute, the power of active action, the power of male attribute, the power of penetration, the power of conquest. But they needed to be shown the equal power of the passive, accepting, welcoming, witnessing attribute that can be seen as the mystic female. Of course, this is purely, we could even choose to invert these. It's really about yin and yang that cannot really be separated. It is the whole exercise of ego in duality to create opposition between things which are truly not in opposition, that are actually just one. It's the activity of the mind to separate oneness into two pieces of a puzzle, one being male and one being female. But really, it's one thing. You can see these are being two separate hands. One is right and one is wrong, left. But anybody with a bigger perspective will see that these are just parts of the same person, the same whole. So there is no opposition between right and left, or right and wrong even, in a person. It's just the same person, it's one person. But yes, there are right side, right brain attribute, left brain attribute. There are feminine attributes, masculine attributes. So this is really the subject of chapter 6. And Vian Den Groot plays on words again between subject and object, and stresses the notion of egolessness, and reminding us that the egoless subject, so the master or the oneness, emanating from source, is eternal and boundless. It's another way really of saying that oneness is just oneness. And yes, it has this movement within it, but it's just a single thing. It is one's true identity. So it is, Vian Den Groot is really recommending and encouraging us to see that this is who we truly are. We are oneness. We are not who we think we are. The ego identity is not the true identity. This subject emanating from source, which is eternal and boundless, is one's true identity. So we are truly that. And all these ideas of who we are not eternal and boundless, and they are not our true identity. While our true identity is giving us effortless freedom and oneness. One's eternal dance and rebirth in infinite worlds within creation. So this is the movement of creation, the vortex of creation, the torus of existence, the universe, the galaxy with its black hole in the center, but which is a vortex in constant movement, but it's a single galaxy. It is life's own spirit, always silent and elusive. So yes, when you are that oneness, when you embrace that identity, your soul is now spirit. Your spirit is the Holy Spirit. And that spirit is always silent and elusive, but it will cause you, it will cause the right action. It will cause by itself, naturally and effortlessly, the right attitude, the right effort, the right action in non-action, non-doing. So it is really, once again, a very essential chapter if you are going to dig deep into it and understand it. Chapter 7 elaborates about the heaven and earth that was introduced in chapter 6, which Jesus, the Christ, was referring to as the kingdom of heaven. So chapter 7, heaven and earth are everlasting. That's just a repeating. The reason heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves. Thus, they can last forever. It's really, again, about the notion of identity. Heaven and earth exist without a sense of existing separately from the all. Thus, they can last forever because there is no time. In this oneness, there is no time. And so there is no death, there is no birth. Therefore, the sages place themselves last but end up in front. So, unfortunately, many people will use their ego to interpret this in the wrong way, that the right way to end up in front is to put yourself last. So, hence the spiritual ego, what we call the spiritual ego of people who are falsely humble, putting themselves last as a strategy to end up in front. Same thing when Jesus, as the Christ, said, many of the last will be first, which some people interpreted as the last will be first. All the last will be first. Encouraged some egomaniac people to adopt a very subtle spiritual ego strategy to pretend humility, play humble, pretend humility as a strategy to get their well-deserved first place in the afterlife in their mind. They have not really understood what Jesus was speaking about when mentioning the kingdom of heaven, and what Lao-Tzu in the Tao Te King referred to as heaven and earth. So the reason that heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves. So it's the absence of identity that gives this quality of timelessness, this eternal quality. And the sages, the actual sages, do not place themselves last as a strategy. And truly, they don't even place themselves last. They simply don't place themselves anywhere. They don't choose any specific point of view or any specific position. They just witness. They are just the eternal witness. They just drop their personal identity and embrace the identity of the whole, which is no identity. They place themselves last but end up in front, are outside of themselves and yet survive. So this is very important. One way to describe that state, that fourth state of consciousness, which is non-identified, is that some people will say you are outside of yourself. It's even more than that, actually. You are not inside yourself, you are not outside yourself. You are just nowhere anymore. You are everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. It is not due to their is it not due to their selflessness? Yes, it is the non-identification. That is how they can achieve their own goals. Well, that is probably a wrong translation somehow, or a mistake in transcription, because no, the sages don't have their own goals. Nothing is their own. It's only oneness. And oneness has its own sufficiency of being without goals. It's only the beauty of life. The goal of being is being. There is no notion of goal and of achieving goals in oneness and in non-identity. So let's go to Vian Den Groot. The present of life. Life is the present of now. So yes, when you are without identity, without identification, you are outside of time. When you are now, you are outside of time. And when you are outside of time, when you are now, you also are out of identification. So it's really the meaning of the Christian cross, the vertical notion of who I am. There's a 0 point to that when you are just, you are, without a sense of identity. This is the center point of I am in terms of identity. And then there's a horizontal bar of the Christian cross, which is time. And when you are in past or in future, when you are extrapolating or speculating about the future, when you are reminiscing, regretting or reminiscing or missing the past, you are not now. When you are at the 0 point of time, you are now. When you are in the 0 point of identity, you are not even I am. You just are without any notion of identity. So this is the symbolic relevance of the cross, the Christian cross. So source and subject are eternal, and creation is long enduring. Mindless, egoless, selfless, they are always present and available. They are the present of life to life. So this is a very important sentence. Life itself is the present, and the present is now. It's its own goal. There's no goal there. Life is the present to life. Now is the present to life. Life is the present of now. All these things are just sentences to make you realize that you can get out of language, you can get out of thoughts, you can get out of your mind, you can get out of your identification, you can get out of time and just be all that is without any notion of identity, any notion of time, just intense presence in awareness, and it generates immense energy and joy, but there is no identification. No one is there to witness that. But there is witnessing going on. One who silently embraces selflessness and timelessness finds freedom in life now. That's the freedom. Freedom is freedom first and foremost from identity and from time. This is the freedom that Jesus was preaching. In union with spirit and harmony with creation. Yes, when you are in union with spirit, but a true union where there is no more you and spirit. It's a single thing. It's a true union. When you are truly in union with spirit, you are not there anymore. In union with spirit and harmony with creation. Automatically, when you are in union with spirit, you are in harmony with creation, because it's all a single thing. Yin and yang, transcending duality now. Yes, there is not even any more yin and yang. It's merely the yin and yang are in union when you are in union with spirit. Transcending duality now. So this is the transcendence of duality, is when there's no more yin and yang, there is no more feminine and masculine, there is no more good and bad, there's no more left and right, up and down, past and future. All these things, even light and dark as a concept, loses relevance and just vanishes into irrelevance. Ultimately merging with source. So this is another degree of union, is when really there is no more trace of you as a person thinking about yourself. Transcending subject and even now. Yeah. There is a degree of union with spirit and with source where the possibility of material projection is not even relevant anymore. And that is our destiny after absolute union, absolute freedom, absolute awareness, absolute presence. This is my blessing, my wish to all of us. So on this, I wish you deep, faithful meditation. I wish you union with spirit and freedom and joy in the presence of the I am that is all there is. Sayonara.